Fox 5 and Hot 97 present Street Soldiers with Lisa Evers.
I'm so glad you're joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers. I'm making money, making music. I'm your host, Lisa Evers. In this episode, we're taking a look at the new ways today's singers, rappers, hip-hop artists, music groups, and creators are getting paid to do what they love. While performing on stage and studio recording remain the foundation, there are now many other avenues where they can cash in on their hard work and fame. Los Angeles rapper and entrepreneur Snoop Dogg rose to fame in the early 1990s as part of the West Coast gangster rap movement, repping the Crips gang in their signature blue and gray colors. Fast forward 30 years, and the man who popularized smoking weed years before it was legal has an A-list resume of music hits and business ventures, like his own cannabis brand, instead of a rap sheet. He's made dozens of albums, sold millions worldwide, and even performed at the Super Bowl halftime show in 2022. His fascinating friendship with Martha Stewart turned into another income stream with her TV show, all of it helping to make him a multimillionaire.
He's remained true to who he is. What do we think about when we think about Snoop? Cannabis, he's got a cannabis brand. Gin and juice, he's got his own canned gin and juice cocktail.
Know I'm my style, keep it bougie and ghetto.
Emerging hip-hop artist, rapper, and actor Shai comes from hip-hop royalty. Her dad is Grammy-winning rapper Method Man, but the former elementary school teacher says she's not riding on his coattails. She has her own career plan that includes studio sessions and live performances. Plus, she's considering acting and merchandising opportunities. She tells me there's never been a better time for women.
I love it because we're dominating, and it just shows even little girls that they can grow up to be, a superstar if they wanted to. And just being a part of that is very empowering because I'm all for women empowerment.
Music producers have diversified too, with multiple income streams. On top of creating beats, mixing and mastering tracks and songs, to ownership and other ventures. Take multi-platinum music producer and musician Amadeus. He creates hits for some of the biggest names in hip-hop and so much more.
There's so many ways you can make money. Myself as a musician, I can tour, I can have a residency, I can be an author, I can go be a motivational speaker, I can create workshops, how to produce, behind the scenes, music 101 business.
AMG Music Group President Danny Sue Griffin says a lot has changed for artists since 2014 when he co-executive produced some of Fetty Wap's greatest hits. Now he's helping to guide the careers of new artists like Shai.
I would say there's more avenues now to make money because of the internet. So you basically put together a product and put it on the internet and social media sites, and it just flies sometimes. So before we didn't have that.
We've got an amazing panel for you, so let's get right to it. Joining me for this episode of Street Soldiers is Lisette Voitko-Best. She's a senior entertainment reporter with Forbes. Lisette, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
We really appreciate it. Also with us is multi-platinum music producer and musician, the one and only Amadeus. Amadeus, thanks for being with us again.
Appreciate you, Lisa, always. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Also with us is Shai. She is, I call her emerging because she's on the uprise here. Hip-hop artist and actor. Shai, great to have you on Street Soldiers for your first time.
And no, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you so much for being with us. Also with us is Danny Sue Griffin. He's the president of AMG Music Group. He's the co-EP of the famous Fetty Wap Trap Queen Diamond hit string of hit songs there. And he's also working with a lot of new artists, including Shai. Danny, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
I really appreciate it. Danny, I want to start with you on this because this is, 10 years since you had all of those hit songs with Fetty during the start of his career. What is it that you look for in an artist that you decide to get involved with, or that you say has talent?
What I look for is more likely is a work ethic. You know what I mean? You got to have a resilient work ethic. It got to be like undeniable. Like whether you got to be doing it, whether you there by yourself or whether you with a group of people or a team, because a lot of them, they work ethic is not there. So you can have the talent and you might not have the work ethic to bring the talent to light.
Right, and there is a lot of hard work. Lisette, you study the artists, you look at the industry. What do you see going on? Is it just kind of our imagination or what we're seeing, like with all these new endeavors by these various artists, or is that really now a staple of many careers?
Definitely a staple. To your point that you brought up at the top of the segment, touring and recording albums are the bedrock of being a musician. But I'm sure, as my fellow panelists here can definitely attest, profits from recording music aren't what they used to be, given with the advent of streaming. And touring is really the only way to make like a good chunk of money. But in order to build wealth, and in order to, if you have a goal to build a brand, become some sort of a lifestyle or fashion icon or whatever your interests are, you can parlay that into business, which is really a bedrock of building wealth and a lasting financial legacy, not just for yourself, but your family.
No, definitely. Amadeus, in terms of you've always spoken on the show and at the forums that you speak within the community and in the schools about how important it is for artists and for creative people like yourself to really own what they create. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, ownership is everything, right? And I've been at this for 20 plus years. So I've been riding the waves for a long time, as Lisette mentioned, of the money that used to be made back in the day. The producer, as I represent the creative and the producer, we made so much money. There was such a big level of respect for the creative. Fast forward to where we are nowadays, where everybody and their mama and their cats and dogs and grandparents are artists and musicians and creators. So now the market and the game is oversaturated. So the value, is down. When I think about when I was in high school, like I was the only producer in my entire school. Like I was the only producer that I knew at my age. And then you look at today, you turn around, everybody's producer, everybody's a singer, everybody's a songwriter. So ownership is key, but I feel like it's very difficult today with accessibility.
Shai, tell us how you came to get involved, because Danny gave me a little hint about that. It's pretty interesting.
So professionally, I started music, I would say about a year and a half ago. I was just like rapping with my brothers and my cousins, like nothing really too serious. And then Danny, and along with my other manager, Jamal, and my mom, we created like something basically. And we had a podcast in Phoenix Studios, and right next door they have a recording studio. They have a couple of them. So I did poetry in high school. I come from a long lineage of people who know how to rhyme. So we just honestly put our heads together and made magic, I could say. And it's been great so far.
And then when you talk about your lineage, we should note that your father is Method Man.
Yes.
And did he encourage you at all, or did you want to kind of do it on your own and then let him see what you had created? How did that work?
Yeah, so I definitely started everything on my own. Like I said, my mom is my manager, so she's kind of like my second voice in everything. So once I wanted to present him with a body of work instead of just being like, oh, Dad, I do music, and then it just like be an afterthought. So me presenting him with a body of work and letting him know that I was serious, he's like, okay, but I'm still doing it on my own, but I do let him get sneak peeks and I let him hear things, just, get his expertise on things.
That's great. And you came to this from kind of an unusual route. Tell us what you were doing before.
Oh, I was a paraprofessional and a teacher for second and third grade. I was also spending summers at JCC doing summer camp for children on the spectrum and children with special needs. So that was like my specialty, and I still love the kids, but I had to stop because I needed to really find myself and find my career. And yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Stay with us. There's more to come.
The latest leg of Taylor Swift's Eras tour, she pulled in something like $70 million just in merchandise.
Lisette, in terms of the concerts, because there was, during the pandemic, nobody could really perform. There weren't a lot of shows. Then it's like the next year, the last couple of years, it seems like there's been an explosion. Are there more concerts and more shows and festivals than ever before, or are we just not used to seeing so many?
The short answer is yes. And the longer answer is because touring is such a large portion of a working musician's income, a lot of people immediately wanted to go back out once we could get back together after, the COVID vaccines and everything rolled out. So that was part of it. The other part of it is that, just this year, Polestar reported that there are more shows than there have ever been before. Artists are selling more tickets than they ever have before. And it's a little bit complicated by the fact that it's also more expensive to tour than it ever has before. So when you're hearing controversy around high ticket sales, whether it's for Bruce Springsteen or Taylor Swift, or more recently, the Oasis reunion, it's because it just costs more to tour. The artists who are at the top bill, they can, pass that cost on in some degree through ticket pricing. And then obviously Ticketmaster is also experimenting with that dynamic ticketing pricing model, which modulates the price of tickets. So we're in an interesting moment right now in touring where it's never been more robust, but it's also, I think, never been more complicated.
Well, Amadeus, because you've toured as Trey Songz and other artists, music managers, you're a drummer yourself. Tell us about what your experience has been like with that lately.
Yes, I definitely agree with Lisette. I remember just briefly thinking about how challenging and difficult the pandemic was for the world, of course, but for the musician and the creative and the artist, right? Our lives depend upon people and being alongside people and performing and creating experiences for people. So once we were able to, get back to a sense of normalcy, it felt amazing being back, and I felt like the world just appreciated things much better. So I know we're speaking of touring and music. So when we finally got to perform again, and you can just see the looks in the eyes of the fans of that love, appreciation, and admiration to be front and center, at a show again. We did a tour the top of this year with Trey Songz, Keisha Cole, Jaheim, and K. Michelle, a full-fledged R&B tour. And it was one of the most amazing tours that we've experienced. And as you mentioned, I've been touring with Trey as his music director and drummer for 17 years. And that tour it just felt so amazing to just be able to create that experience and get back out there and perform again.
Shai, tell us about what is that like, being live and being in front of a crowd and they're feeling your music, they're feeling your song.
I definitely agree with Amadeus and Lisette. It's just like, just being the artist is very different from just being on the side now. So I have to, what I say is I step into like a new person. Like, my full name is Cheyenne, but the person that hits that stage, that's Shai. She's determined, she's ready to work, she's putting in work, her breath control is out of control. Like, she's doing everything right. And just to feel that and just to make eye contact and gain the fans that I have been gaining, I love it. And I just see better for myself in arenas and stadiums and just connecting with the world. So that's why I'm just going to keep going, because I can see where it's starting and it just feels really good.
Danny, are today's fans, especially with hip hop music, are today's fans different than they were 10 years ago when you broke to the top of the charts with Fetty?
Yes, they are. The fans today is very they fickle now. Like, they here today, gone tomorrow. Fetty fans was there every day, every show. They traveled. They even followed us from show to show to show. And those that follow us, I used to let them come, backstage to meet and greet for free. You know what I mean? So, but today fans, you have them today and they're gone tomorrow. So you got to be real special for the fans to stay on your line. That's what I tell artists. They be like, yo, I need them on my line. And I was like, well, you gotta give them something, And when I say give them something, I mean, you got to give them your soul, who you are. You got to let them know who you are as an artist, because that's very important.
Listen, we've seen some of these big concert tours with groups that have been super groups that reunited or have been performing for decades. How come they have loyal fan bases? Can you give us an idea of some of the biggest ones?
That is a great question. People like to think that Taylor Swift is still a really young person, but she's been doing it for a couple decades now at the most, which is a long time. Like, that's an entire adult lifespan, right? And obviously the Swifties are, some of the most loyal fans around. Obviously Beyonce with the Beehive, the Renaissance tour was one of the top earning tours last year. And what is interesting to us, at Forbes, reporting on entertainment, is seeing how these icons, these stars of, pop, R&B, and hip hop can really create not just a community with their fandom, but they can, say with Rihanna, for example, she's got her Fenty cosmetics and she's also has her Fenty lingerie. Those are hugely successful.
Yeah.
Jay-Z, one of the lions of the stage, he has his luxury cognac and champagne brands with two different distributors, which these are things that once you take that fandom, you can really turn it into something else because they not only love your artistry, but they value your opinion when it comes to anything else potentially in their life, which is something really valuable to capitalize upon.
I had a pleasure of meeting Taylor Swift, and she brought us out in California years ago, right? And her fans was asking for Fetty Wap, right? And she was like, I'm doing this for my fans and for you, Fetty, because I love you. You know what I mean? I love your music. So the way she passed the torch to him with the fan base in the way that they was reacting to it, it just seemed like she was just with the fans. They all had the same communication. So when we hit the stage, it showed, and I was like, wow. So just being around her and her family, I learned, because her family runs everything with her. So I learned so much from actually meeting her and actually talking to her mother and father about the tours and stuff like that, and how the fan base reacts to everything. And after that, I had a different outlook on how to deal with the fans. It's more personal, honestly. Like now when when I was dealing with the fans after that show, I used to go in the audience and I used to sit in the back of the audience and see how they react. And the most loyalist fans, you could tell, because they was falling out and everything else, right? So I go out there and I get them like, come on with me. And they was like, are you serious? I seen you on stage. So I bring them there, I let them meet them, and they go crazy, and they still fans to this day.
In terms of merchandise, because that's become a huge thing for a lot of, especially with a lot of the hip hop artists, does that generate a lot of money as well?
It does. Certainly on the road. I calculated recently that on the latest tour, the latest leg of Taylor Swift's Eras tour, she pulled in something like $70 million just in merchandise for, I think it was 65 dates she was out on the road this year, which I can see everyone else shaking their heads right now. It's quite an impressive feat because that's a lot of t-shirts and hoodies and postcards and a lot of the other types of associated merchandise that she sells on the road and also on her website. So that doesn't even account for what she's just selling online day to day.
Amadeus, when you're on tour, what do you see happening with the whole merch thing?
Oh yeah, I mean, people definitely line up to get their favorite artist anything, whether it's a T-shirt, whether it's a hat, whether it's meet and greet as Danny Sue mentioned. But I do want to pivot, right? Because as a producer and a musician, we don't get that money. We don't make money off of merch unless we're on the tour physically working or producing or performing. We're not making that money. One thing that someone asked me was, Amadeus, I see you everywhere. You're doing this, you're doing a million things. We have to. You know what I'm saying? We don't make, like Lisette and Danny Seuss, we don't make what we used to make. Like we're being nickeled and dimed. Sometimes artists and labels and managers feel like, we need to barter. They don't even want to pay for the tracks, pay for the music that allows them to have these hit records and smashes that they have. So I have to be a musician. I tour with Trey Songz as his music director and tour drummer. I'm a producer, right? I have my own book out. The Story of Amadeus and the Beat Goes On. I do workshops. I do classes. Like Shai mentioned, I go around speaking to the kids, pushing them to chase and live their dreams. I have a residency in Las Vegas at Dre's as a drummer. I have to do all of these different things because musically, it just doesn't bring it in for the producer and for the songwriters that are behind the scenes that are not in the forefront. They don't know who we are. We don't have CDs and cassette tapes anymore to open up to read those credits to say, hey, Shai wrote that. Amadeus, produced that. Fetty Wap is featured on it and he wrote the hook. They don't know. So thankfully, we have social media that now kind of shines the light on the creators and the people that are behind the scenes that can put a name and a face together. So I just wanted to kind of use this
platform. I'm glad you did.
To shed light on the behind the scenes and the creatives that don't receive this money that all of the artists that are receiving and making.
Shai, you're the future here, so I want to give you the last word. What can we look forward to from Shai?
You can look forward to seeing me on every kind of screen you have, phone, computer, TV, billboards. I'm going to be everywhere. So don't forget this face. The name is Shai. And yes, you guys can follow me at I'm Shai on Instagram. Everywhere else is Shai Music. And EP is coming soon.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers. I'm making money making music. You can watch it again on our Fox 5 NY YouTube page and the Fox Local app. Remember, use your mind. It's your best weapon. I'm Lisa Evers. Let's push for peace, love, and justice for all.